Good morning, Johnny.
Good morning, William. How's it going?
I'm good, but holy moly, what a week it has been for
Well,
you.
it might have just been the busiest week I've ever had. I replied to like literally hundreds of messages, and Remotion blew up like more than I could ever have imagined in my wildest dreams.
Yeah, it really resonated with people, right? And it's funny because like I make videos on YouTube and for me the use case is clear and I use also motion graphic tools and for me also the range of problem for which Remotion makes complete sense is obvious. And it was kind of nice to see that it resonated with everyone and actually everyone was writing everywhere on social media. It's a game changer. So that was pretty cool.
It's nice that our term "game changer" has made some waves as well. But still, I was so surprised because I've teased the project a bit here on the podcast.
Yes.
And impressed a few people, but not too many. And like I remember tweeting out last summer that I had this idea, and I basically just posted the exact API that I would have proposed, and like posted some pseudocode on Twitter, and got like 15 likes. And I was like, okay, it's a nice little idea. But then the hype that it generated was like a multiple of what I expected. Absolutely insane.
And so you always knew that somewhat on the technical side it would be possible to. So you are generating motion graphic videos using Puppeteer and you're taking a screenshot of every frame. And you somehow always at the hinge that this would not be a problem. This would work pretty well, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I like a proof of concept of just taking a screenshot and stitching it together. You have it really quick. And then it's just like a question of what are the right APIs, and how do you make a good developer experience? How do you then, based on that it's possible, how do you make it the most easy to write videos?
I played with Remotion this morning and that was a lot of fun. First of all, I have to commend you because what you delivered last week is way more than an MVP, right? Because potentially the MVP would be just, okay, you build a website and then, I have this tool that will take the screenshots and so on. But you delivered so much tooling with it. And actually this morning was pretty cool also because I did yarn start and then it told me, Remotion 1.03, I think.
Remotion 1.3.
1.3 was released. You should upgrade, so that was pretty nice. And there's a lot. You are shipping a lot of tooling with it, which is super nice.
That was like one of the last minute things that I did. I realized that, wow, what if I make a bug in Remotion and like everybody has a bug and nobody realizes how to upgrade? So I did like last minute a like auto update checker, and now you can do npm run upgrade. And really a lot of bugs came in the first week. Like we merged like over 40 pull requests.
Oh, wow.
And that was like also so much to handle, like in a really positive way.
So people get dirty, like they are actually contributing and...
Yes,
cool.
There were several contributors, and like some of the pull requests were like really sophisticated. Like they would like go straight into the rendering pipeline and like send pull requests to optimize it. And that is now like one of the nicest improvements that we made in just a week, that it now is like 4 times faster.
This is what I love is that, already, like even with super long rendering times, we would be happy, right? Because already that technically you could build videos in React is already so huge that we're willing to pull up with a super long rendering time. I think it's a bit the same with Rotato. The rendering time is very long, but it's okay because we know it. There is a range of use case for which it makes perfect sense. And I love that now that this is possible, we're almost getting greedy and making things better and so on. I don't know, I just like this engineering spirit.
Absolutely. I mean, I love when I get a reason to get nerdy and like go really deep and try to optimize something. I even tried to use a Rust tool called Web Screenshot. Um, this is like the Rust version of Puppeteer, which I thought it could be faster because it's Rust and generally it's just faster. But like the performance gains I saw was just like 8 or 9%, and then to deliver like a custom binary for like Mac, Linux, Windows would be a bit hard. So I think we are not quite there yet. But just like playing around and then knowing that people get excited if you could optimize this, that's awesome.
What? So you mentioned substantial performance improvements in the rendering time. What was the change? What is different now?
It was like a combination of multiple things. The first improvement that I realized was that I am screenshotting in a PNG format, and to encode the PNG format, that takes a lot longer than JPEGs.
Okay.
So you don't need PNGs in every case, except if you want to like render a transparent PNG sequence and import that. For example, if you want to overlay it onto another video in.
Again, I mean, I love it, and but it's so cool that we would again like talking about being greedy. Is that that's an amazing feature, but what I mean. Like we would be happy even without, right? So, but it's great that we can do like alpha masks and stuff like that potentially.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of the nice thing is it's like so generic that technically like a lot of things are possible.
Yeah. Speaking of it being generic, so how on the technical side, so we have this API where we know the frame, the current frame, and we know the configuration of the video, and we can calculate the snapshot. How are these parameters injected? So you have the tooling that takes the screenshot. How is this tooling injecting the parameters into the website, essentially?
Yeah, so actually it started out really primitive. You make like a single Webpack bundle, and then while you preview the video, like you just use like a React context, and while you render the video, then like switches into a different mode and just reads the parameter from the URL.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, simple.
Very, very simple, and then just take a screenshot. That was the beginning. But then
Sounds
like
good.
somebody made a pull request of which the point was that if you reload the page every time, that makes it slow. Especially if you like load an image in that site, then it has to load the image every time.
True.
So they made a pull request where like you execute a JavaScript snippet in some way where it just like updates the page and it doesn't rely on that URL URL parameter anymore. That was also another.
So some global JavaScript state somehow.
Yeah, some really dirty global JavaScript state, but it works.
Okay, sounds good. No, sounds fun. And what I really like, so playing with it with this morning, and first of all, like let me explain my use case. Also because I saw that there was also a conversation that came up on social media where people, are using tools like After Effects and they're quite happy with it. Lots of people, and I had never heard about this tool, and it looks very cool. Talked about Apple Motion. Did you know about Apple Motion?
I heard about Apple Motion and I used it. So this is like the motion graphics tool that Apple provides. And like back in the early YouTube days, there was like this amazing YouTube channel, Mystery Guitar Man. I don't know if you heard it, but this was like every week it would be like a musical special effects video where he would like clone himself or like play with 100 instruments at the same time or like some morphing stuff. This guy was like really one of the first to explore these special effects, and he did all of these things with Apple Motion. So this tool was actually quite powerful. I think he then also transitioned away to After Effects, which actually is more powerful. But I mean, it's interesting that Apple made their own motion graphics program.
Yes.
But I think if you install it on a new computer, and this is at least what happened to me, it looks outdated by current standards.
Okay.
And when I installed it, it did not even like have Retina display support.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
it looked like all pixelated. So I think it's safe to say they don't like place such a big bet on Apple Motion anymore.
Okay, interesting. But what I like, because people brought up the topic on social media, is that actually Remotion makes tools like Fusion or After Effects actually better, because there are use cases for which these tools are much more superior. And the fact that now for the use cases where they're super weak, that there is another tool to use, which is Remotion, that actually makes you love even more After Effects. That makes me love Fusion even more, because I really like Fusion. There were some use cases, and I'm gonna give you one where it's getting super sticky. But now that I can use Remotion for this use case, I'm always gonna love it, because I'm always gonna love Fusion, because now I'm gonna only use it where it 100% makes sense. So you actually made these tools better. I would say you made your competitors better by targeting use case range that.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like Remotion against every other video editing program.
No, it's not.
And not every video makes sense to be written in React. So I'm perfectly fine with Remotion being complementary to other video editing programs.
Yes.
And like I released a 2-hour tutorial, like my first YouTube video really. And I did not edit it with Remotion. It just doesn't make sense yet.
Yeah, so that's interesting, because you have this tool which enables us to build videos, graphic motions programmatically, and now we start to have like a visual editor, and who knows where this will develop. And I'm wondering, these tools like After Effects and Fusion, they should also more maybe get into the more programmatic side, because clearly I feel like that's a weakness at the moment. Is that you cannot program some parts of your animations.
Absolutely. I think especially Adobe, they had this idea, and you can program your animations in After Effects in JavaScript. It's quite amazing. And they call this JavaScript customized language, they call it JSX. So it has the same name as the JSX that we know, but it's actually a programming language as well for programming videos in Adobe. And well, the problem is that like it uses like a really old JavaScript version, I think. Maybe they have upgraded it now, but last time I checked, it was like ES3 syntax, really old syntax. And then like you don't have like a proper text editor. Like it's just like a one-line inline thing where you type in your expression. There's not much tooling like ESLint. And I want to give a shout out to another great project. I think it's called Motion Developer. Quite underrated project, and they want to like modernize the tools with which you can program in After Effects.
Who's doing this?
I don't know the name of the person who is doing it, but there's like a Twitter account, Motion Developer. We can link it, and yeah, it's like the same vision where we want to use modern JavaScript, we want to use tooling, we want to have utility functions to program it, and to just make it more programmatic, and in the end enable more composition. And that's another project that is worth checking out if you are interested in this kind of type of stuff. And I think you can also render After Effects projects on a server, but it's you have to like get some custom server. And yeah, it's not like spinning up a web server. It's really customized.
Nice. So I have these custom intros for my videos where I put the title, and these are done in Fusion, and I just change the text, export it. But what I wanted to do originally is that at the beginning it's written of the intro sequence is written React Native, and you have a nice double stroke animation. And I want the title to also appear the same way, which actually is, you have a SVG text, you import it into Fusion, you get a nice node for each object, each SVG object. So it's actually pretty good. You can animate the stroke animation pretty easily. But then if I want to change the text, it's not just about me writing the text quickly and then it will animate, right? I have to re-import the path, and there are some concepts to make it modular, and there are macros you can build where you can select only the parameters you want to animate, but still because it's a new path and you have to reposition them and so on, it's still a big mess to do, where potentially I would just want to write a text and that's it. But this in Remotion is really perfect, right? It's a perfect use case, and that's
Yeah,
my
right.
current use case.
So that I find interesting about like graphical user interface programs, how constraining they can sometimes be by being like so linear. You like make a change, and then you can like undo, redo, go steps back, but you cannot like do like a git rebase, like change something 50 commits ago and then apply all the steps again. Then really sophisticated programs, and they have like a macro system where you record something and
Yes.
can quickly apply steps, but it's not as nice as just changing a parameter.
Yeah, it's absolutely powerful and very convenient, but nothing as near as programming your and so I installed Remotion and I started to rebuild this animation. And also, in my intro sequence on YouTube, I have like basically a background, which is a grid with little dots, which is zoomed in, and I don't know how many dots there are, but let's say even 64, but I think there is more, which are like scaled, and so it means it's like 64 nodes into the which is actually a lot. And then you have to, because it needs to be vector, because you have to zoom in like crazy on one.
Yeah, right. Now, if you want to change the color of one dot, then it might actually be hard, I suppose, in these programs.
Well, at least you have to set it up in a way where it's you could change it easily. And if you didn't, because you didn't think you would need to change color, tough luck. Where indeed, if you do this in React, it's kind of automatic.
Yeah, indeed. And that's also something that like normal React developers take for granted, that you can have variables. And if you want to change the color of something, you don't have to change every little element. Of course,
Yes.
if you if you structure your web app correctly.
We take variables for granted, yes.
Yeah, right. And yeah, I'm really happy with the reaction, and that now makes me want to work on it even more. Definitely motivated. You say it's more than MVP, but if you really want to aim for a complete video production tool, then I need to at some point add audio support.
I was thinking about it. Again, us being greedy, I guess it would make sense. Is that possible to do?
I think it is possible to do, and like I also want it to be. I want that you can use React to compose your audio, that you can have multiple audio components. Say this audio starts at this time, and
Fascinating.
that it composes well together in the end. And maybe if we are super greedy and lucky, and it is possible that you can like change, that you can normalize the volume or something.
Wow.
That is the next big step. And then another idea which I'm super excited about is that something that many video editing programs can do. you can drag in an audio file and then you can visualize the audio. So you for sure know these music channels on YouTube where there's just like they upload a song and the video is just like their logo, but with like some animation where if it's louder, then it's like more animated. And that is also something that is not yet an API in Remotion, but I think would have a lot of use cases.
Wow. And you mentioned this how the parameters are injected, so which frame and so on. So how coupled is the whole thing with React? And did it come up already that someone said, "Oh, it's cool, but I want to do this in AngularJS. I want to do it in..." No, I'm joking. In Vue.js, for instance.
Oh, you are joking, but some other people are not. No, somebody opened a GitHub issue and they said, have you thought about making it framework agnostic? And they even said something like, you built it in React to like soak up the hype of React. But the real innovation is that you can take screenshots of a web page and make a video out of it.
Yes.
Which
is, if I would say, is not fair because so on one hand, indeed, it's a website, and if you can read the parameters and so on. But on the other hand, you are using the whole component model to do the configuration of the video, of the sequence, and so on. And also, you could say hooks to access, to do the stateless components and so on. But sorry, am I seeing this correctly or?
Yeah, I think it's partially fair.
Yes.
It's not like it would be so easy to make it completely framework agnostic. I mean, in the end, I make use of like React context, even the React suspense of some a little bit, and like hooks, and there are quite a few APIs that leverage the React features.
And these are just so elegant done in React using the React concept. Or maybe I'm such a fanboy, I don't even see it. Like
yes, and I personally wouldn't use Vue, but for the people who want to do it, I think in the long term, I want to keep this in the back of my mind that eventually you might be able to do it in other languages. And there's Next.js, and then somebody made Nuxt.js, and I think now there's like Vue native or something.
That's what I wanted to say, is that even if like to keep it to keep this in mind, and therefore pushing you to keep things nicely decoupled, is gonna make Remotion better anyways, even if you use it with React, I think.
Right. With by doing this programmatically, we anyways have the opportunity to make it super modular and decoupled. I'm trying to do it as much as possible. So yeah, maybe in the future, I don't want to promise anything, but especially if like some Vue developers really hyped about it, then I'm happy to work with them to make it better.
Yes.
But if you're ever gonna write videos in Angular, I kind of doubt, because it's so verbose.
Yes. But I guess if someone really wants, if someone is today in the situation where I'm going on a tangent here, I know Vue and I know how to do these things with Vue, I guess there is a way you could inject, right? Because at the end, it's just a website, right? You could inject something in the DOM which bootstraps a Vue. There would be a way, right, to inject Vue somehow in your website, or
I think it might be possible. I think it's not such a crazy idea. And especially because of the flexibility of React, I think in some way it must be possible to like render a Vue component in React. I think these crazy projects, I haven't researched it so much, exist, but the philosophy of React is also really to not make it easy, but to get it right, that you are as flexible as possible.
yes.
I think use cases like, okay, now in this React component is embedded a view component
Yes.
that makes it possible.
Yeah, there were this running joke on social media a couple of years ago about micro frontends, where you would have one component which is done in Vue, one component in React, but here it might really make sense for people outside the React community, I guess.
That was a trend that was so crazy and like got so many emotions out of people.
But that was not a serious thing, was it? It was just a troll, right? Or was it a serious?
I'm not sure.
Ah,
And the hype of micro front end died really quickly.
yes.
I think people already moved away to new esoteric patterns.
But now it's time to bring it back. One thing which I really enjoyed using Remotion this morning is that because you do animations and I copy. So first thing I did, install React Native Web because and then I could copy paste animation. I could use Redash for simple things like cubic. If I want to do a cubic Bezier easing, I wanted to do a mix, a linear interpolation. You provide interpolate, but and then I could just copy paste an SVG animation I had already built in React Native. So it was just super nice. And what I like is that it's a different paradigm because it's stateless. So you are giving me some parameters and I have to compute the snapshot for these parameters. And actually, it's such a nice way to think about animations because actually, if you're writing, React Native or even other types of animation, so with reanimated V1 or reanimated V2, the fact that you have to think in terms of snapshots and stateless snapshot for your animations, it kind of decouples the problem in two parts. So you have your actual animations, and then you have the thing that drives the animation, can be a gesture, can be with timing animations and so on. And it's such a nice way to decouple things where sometimes you can build, so taking Remotion aside, you can build a reanimated V1 animation and struggle and it doesn't work. And actually, no, you should really do it step by step. First, okay, how all my snapshots, quote unquote, look like, and then add the driver to the animation. So in Remotion, you are the driver, but in React Native can be a gesture, can be an animation. So I really like this paradigm, and I think that to build Remotion animations can actually make you better at animations in general, and especially in React Native, I would say.
That's true. So the thing about React Native Web is something that I did not think about, but it's also something really nice about React that, it all fits together, and React Native Web actually works.
It works great, yes.
The thing with statelessness, I think, I see it just like you. That's the way to go, and in many ways, I think it's easier because you don't worry so much about the performance in Remotion when you anyway render a video out at the end. In reanimated, you have to call a function animated.spring, for example, or with Spring, I guess, if we are talking about reanimated. And then you just see it happen, and then it's gone. And then if there's a mistake, you run it again and try to visually debug it with your eye. Where in Remotion, you can scrub slowly with the mouse and see each frame individually. And I'm happy that I did it this way, but some people are struggling with this actually. And I guess
it's a different mindset for sure.
It is a different mindset. So some people think they can drag in an animated GIF, which I guess if you pause the video and always stay at frame 1, then the animated GIF will play anyway. And then if they render it, then it's just all messed up. So yeah, that is something that I guess I need to make clear in the documentation.
But then, people who love functional programming, they must be so into it, right? They must be like, yes, that's how it should be.
Yes, maybe. I mean, maybe it's gets people to be more passionate about it. So pure functional programming.
Absolutely. What about easing? So I had to kind of use my own easing functions. I mean, when you do your animations with Remotion, the easings are always so amazing. How do you do it? Do you have a provide an API for it and I didn't see it, or?
Since yesterday morning, I think it was like 24 hours ago as of time of this recording, there is an easing API. I totally forgot that I included one, and
It was not
it
documented.
was not documented.
Right.
So now it's documented. And the funny thing is, the easing API, I just copy pasted the whole file from the React Native source code.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
And
And you have Bezier easing as well, everything?
yes,
Perfect.
everything you have in React Native, the API is the exact same. So now you can use easing in the interpolate function, but my favorite way.
Oh, you can also use it directly in interpolate.
Yes.
So like an extra parameter in interpolate.
Yes.
Nice.
So there's
nice.
an easing parameter in interpolate that
Okay.
now you can use. And this is poorly documented. Now it's better. I also mentioned it in the newest release notes quite a bit. And the documentation I also completely stole from React Native. But isn't this beautiful that it just works?
Yes, and by the way, the documentation you've made really convinced me. We knew about docusaurus, and we knew that Sebastian Lauber is working on improvements to it, and now to see it also in action for Remotion, it really convinced me to use docusaurus in the future. So that's really cool. I'm really excited about this project.
Big shout out to docusaurus and Sebastian Lauber.
Yeah.
Now I really see why this framework is used by so many React Native frameworks. Things like that you can just like that it detects broken links, for example, are so valuable. Every time you deploy, it makes sure that you don't add a broken link. And this MDX stuff is pretty nice.
Yes.
That you can just that you have TypeScript and JSX syntax highlighting built in is very nice. And now I think that you can also just add any React component. I might just make a custom landing page or add a pricing page for the company license all in docusaurus, and that's going to be the Remotion website.
One thing about we were talking about statelessness. First, so I have these stroke animations I want to use for the custom title and so on. And originally, the color was random. So speaking about the chief of mindset. And so the way I would do it is that every time I instantiate the component, I would pick randomly a color, and then I would have these nice random colors. Here, obviously, it doesn't work because every frame, the color is going to be different. So frame 1 is going to be blue, frame 2, which is actually cool. And then I was scratching my head. I was like, how can you solve this problem? But then I took my bike to come here, and it popped into my head. And I guess the solution for this is to use local storage, or even better, session storage. Is that the best practice for such a use case?
It's so cool that you're thinking about this. And yes, some people have also struggled on this. In the preview, they use a use state to first define a random value, and then they animate it over time. But since Remotion is using multi-threaded rendering, it will not guarantee that the state is kept or that even the frames are rendered in the right order. So then when they render it, it looks all messed up.
Yes.
Somebody posted an example of how messed up their animation looked like when they rendered it. And so my plan is to pretty soon provide an API. It's going to be called random or something. And it's going to be deterministic randomness. You have to pass in the frame number, and then you can change of the seed. You can say frame plus 0.1 if you want it, if you don't like the random value that you got. And then the random value that you get is always the same.
Perfect.
So it's not random. I don't know. How do you call it?
And behind the scene, you will use local storage or session storage, or you will use, right? I mean, that's how you get. Is that how you keep state?
No,
No.
I don't think so. I think you can solve this purely mathematically,
Oh, really?
just by how I think just how you like if you hash something with like a seed, then then you can change the seed and you will always get a different hash. But if the seed stays the same, you will always get the same hash. And
Oh, interesting.
so and then like the
Interesting.
hash
Okay.
that you get is kind of random, right? So my idea is that the frame is the seed, and therefore if you change the seed, then you get a different random number. But as long as you keep the same seed, you will always get the same random number,
Perfect. Oh,
which is not actually random.
yes.
Probabilistic randomness, I would call it. I don't know if this is the right
Yes.
term. It's actually the opposite of random.
Sounds cool.
I need to think about what's the right name for it.
Cool. And so you mentioned something about, I think, the licensing model. So how does it work?
Okay, so the licensing model is that, well, first of all, there's like the free license, which if you're up to 3 people or a nonprofit or an individual indie hacker, then you get to use it for free. And you can also like make it use video that you're going to sell, no problem. And then I kind of foresaw a little bit that, this might become bigger and people might actually want to use it. And I saw from other open source projects that like the maintainers, they are just like, it's a big burden for them to keep up with all the incoming issues and they don't earn any money from it. So I decided that I don't want to give the bigger companies who are more likely to afford it, I don't want to give Remotion to them for free. So how it works currently is that they have to contact me and then we negotiate a license. And some pretty big companies, publicly traded, very hyped Silicon Valley startups, at least one of them reached out to me. And then I sent them the terms. They haven't bidden yet. So far, I didn't do any sales yet. But it looks promising and the interest is here.
Super exciting. And and now that's exciting because then it really also will improve Remotion and make it better. And I mean, it's only been a week, so just to think how far this will be going. It's it's really cool.
This was an insane week. And so I wanna make it clear that this is like I have some commercial ambitions as well. I want to keep it free for the community, but it's not like the traditional MIT license project that I just want to give away. And I am very proud of it actually because one, without this, I couldn't work so much on it.
Yes.
So because of this, I was able to work a week almost full time on the weekend on it and keep up with everything and solve everyone's bugs.
Yes.
Almost everyone's bugs, and some are still yet to come. And the other thing that's cool is that there were like 2 contributors who like made each 3 pull requests, which I thought that were really good. So I would say these are the top contributors to Remotion. And because of that, I now offers them to compensate them by working on this open source software.
So, wow.
So, and one of them has already accepted. So now even contributors can get paid for their work, which for most people is free.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, really cool. Yeah. And wow. So, you learn web development skills and it allows you to build React web apps. It allows you to build native apps with React Native. And now it allows you to do Remotion. I'm so excited about this new whole category.
So far, 2021, yes. The future is here.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, congratulations. And I have to again to commend you because on the video you presented, because so Remotion is technically very impressive, but then also equally impressive is the marketing you've put behind. Because okay, you build this tool to where you can build really cool videos, but then it's not granted that you are yourself able to build the cool video. Doesn't make sense. But then you build some really cool example with it, and then also the message I think was very clear, really made sense, really resonated with people, which is also not so obvious. You know what I mean? Like people can be good at one thing but not necessarily good at the other. But you really in every area like manage to deliver something great. So it's I was very impressed actually by the announcement, and everything was incredible.
Yeah, I think this also like fits in together with like the decision um, to choose this license. Um, at one point I decided, actually this is actually really cool. If it were like all free, I wouldn't have marketed it as heavily. I wouldn't have made like a trailer and all this documentation for other people. And I would have just used it for me. And now when I decided, okay, but actually companies could pay for it, use Remotion, then I automatically came to the realization I need to make it as attractive and easy for them to use it.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thanks, William.